range in length from an hour to 15 hours, many of which can be listened to on the IWM website. This is the story of a tank regiment told by the men themselves, in their own words. Raw and visceral recollections of some of the most dramatic and horrific scenes that I ever heard described in nearly 40 years of talking to veterans. The sheer nerve-wracking tension of serving in the highly inflammable Sherman tank, said to be known to the Germans as the Tommy cooker, and certainly known to the lads as the Ronson, after the cigarette lighter which was boasted by the manufacturer to always light first time. The impact of a German anti-tank shell or Panzerfaust missile, the desperate scramble to bail out, the awful fate of those who couldn't. Even if they made it out of the tank, they were still vulnerable to being brutally cut down by the machine guns and hand grenades of German infantry. These were moments of horror recalled by far too many of them. Although able to duel on equal footing with the German Mark IV Panzer, the Sherman was totally outclassed by the Panther and Tiger tanks, and most of all they feared the German 88mm guns. All they had in their favour was sheer numbers as the Shermans rolled off the production lines in their thousands. New tanks and crews would usually arrive almost immediately to replace losses. This book charts as honestly as possible what the men thought had happened, checked against the facts as far as they can be established. Sometimes the stories do not entirely match, but there is enough agreement to make this a worthwhile exercise. This is as close as we can now get to a sense of what it was like at the sharp end of armoured warfare. They were involved in titanic battles that were far too big, too complex to allow me to do more than sketch out a rough outline of how the regiment fitted into the bigger picture. I am painfully aware that trying to include too much detail would merely obscure what is the real importance of this book, the story of an amazing group of soldiers. Hence, we rarely get much of a look at the German perspective, nor the chance to pay tribute to the forces of the Soviet Union who were battling against some 200 German divisions on the Eastern Front. The 2nd F and FY played a full role as part of the 11th Armoured Division, which earned a reputation to match or exceed even the 7th Armoured Division that had so excelled in North Africa. But their achievements came at a terrible cost, with some 10,000 casualties and over 2,000 dead, higher than any other British armoured division in that war. The men who make this book were at the epicentre of this fighting, suffering the casualties, losing friends in circumstances which would scar their memories for life. At times I felt almost guilty to be sharing such traumatic memories, but surely it is important that we appreciate what they suffered and what they achieved as part of the vast armies that collectively defeated Nazi Germany. They were ordinary men, performing extraordinary deeds in a noble cause. We should remember them. 1. Fleeting impressions. It seemed as if war would never reach the men of the 2nd F and FY. They had trained for so long, year after year, mastering their military skills in readiness for the ultimate test. But nothing in their training could prepare them for the awesome shock of war, the dreadful noise, the confusion, the sudden death, and overwhelming visceral horror of it all. They could only try their best to do themselves justice and not to let down their comrades fighting to survive alongside them. The interviews made a big impact on me. Indeed, long after I had finished the interviewing project, I still remembered the chilling stories told me by Charlie Workman. He lived in Musselburgh, just south of Edinburgh, and had already lived a full life when I met him, rising to be a senior officer in the intelligence corps. But he always maintained his links with the 2nd F and FY, and he never forgot what they had experienced together in the fields of Normandy. His first impressions of action were those of frenetic chaos, as his Sherman trundled into action on the 26th of June 1944, attacking strong German positions around the village of Cheux in Normandy. The wireless traffic was going like mad. There was an 88mm at so-and-so. There was something else at so-and-so. For the first time in my life I saw German troops advancing towards us. They would be Panzer Grenadiers, part of 12th SS Panzer Division. This was quite a strong defensive line, and we'd hit it.